We can hear you. Your slide is visible.
Okay. Is the slide changing? Can you see the
Yes.
slide changing?
Yes.
Okay. So, good evening, friends. My topic is legal and constitutional provisions for the elderly in India. All of you must be appreciating that it's a boring topic for us doctors, but let us just discuss briefly why this matters. You have already heard from Dr. Sharma about the exploding numbers of the elderly population. 149 million already in 2022, projected to cross 347 million by 2050. And that time, it will be more than the total US population. It will be one fifth of the world's elderly population. And of course, you know about the risks associated with that: poverty, healthcare gaps, and neglect. Now, we had very good data from longitudinal aging study in India called LASSI. And if you just look at the social findings, dependency ratio is 62 per 100 working age individuals, and 32% of elders have very low life expectations. 70% of the elderly, they live in rural areas. Look at the economic findings. 78% of seniors, they are devoid of any pension benefit, and only 18% are covered by health insurance. 1 in 2 male seniors work, while 1 in 4 female seniors work. So all of you know we have changed over the last 50 years or so. Our families have changed. There's shifting support system, probably that is responsible to some extent of this change, and joint families probably do not exist in metro cities anymore. Urbanization and migration that eroded traditions, and many of our homes have become empty nests where the elderly couple live alone when the children have become NRIs. So this is classically called empty nest phenomenon. So if you don't have any family to look after you when you are old, you have to have a very supportive law and schemes, welfare schemes, that kind of thing. And our concept of elderly care primarily revolves around that only, which is in contrast to the Western population, where this elderly care is essentially right based. It's their rights. It's not about the welfare done by the state. So the main objectives, I'll try to discuss briefly about the constitutional safeguards which we have, and then I'll try to summarize the statutory provisions and what are the welfare schemes. I'll try to highlight the challenges and gaps and the way forward. So all of you are aware of the directive principles of Indian Constitution from the school days. We read this in civics. Now, two articles are important to remember. One is Article 41, which deals about assistance in old age and sickness. Another is Article 46, which deals about the protection of the weaker section of the society. Now, the fundamental rights, Article 21, this is one very important article because that talks about the right to life, dignity, and healthcare, which includes right to health, shelter, and a decent standard of living. So it's a right. Article 14 talks about equality before law, which I'm sure nobody believes in. Now, federal responsibility. So we have a federal structure, right? So you have the union government at center and several states and a few union territories. So union government has some role to play, and the state governments have some role to play. And these roles are very clearly marked in the Constitution. Now, states deals with pensions, old age homes. Now, we have got a very uh, from since long, probably since 2007, Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme, which is contributed both by the center as well as by the state. Then we had this national program for healthcare of elderly, and we had several components of that, which is run directly under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And this nationwide toll free number of 14567, this is the national helpline for senior citizens. So if you want to know, if you want some information about the doctors, the old age homes, and some other activity centers, you can call them up. If you want some guidance, including legal guidance or regarding maintenance or anything pension related queries, you can call them up. If you want support, even for emotional support and counseling, you can call them up. So there are judicial interventions which had a great impact from time to time, and Supreme Court they have quite rightly give great importance on this dignity issue based on what was already there in Article 21 of Indian Constitution. There was a case by Ashwani Kumar versus Union of India in 2018 regarding pensions and homes, and the judgment which was given, the verdict, it was phenomenal, I can say. It's a pivotal advancement in the recognition and enforcement of the rights of elderly persons under the Indian Constitution. In this judgment, the Supreme Court acknowledged the Constitution's organic nature, emphasizing its ability to adapt to contemporary challenges, including the evolving needs of the elderly. The court recognized that while the Constitution's directive principles, that is Articles 39 and 41, implicitly addresses the welfare of the elderly, there exists a lacuna in specific provisions guaranteeing their dignity and sustenance. The petitioner highlighted the inadequacies in the existing pension schemes, the lack of adequate shelter and medical facilities, and the partial implementation of the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents Act 2007. So the key messages are the when the court passed a judgment, they mainly stressed upon these facts. One is compilation of status reports on old age homes and medical facilities across districts. Then development of a publicity plan for the MWP Act, because I have already shown you data that only 12% of our elderly persons they are aware of this act, this maintenance of and welfare of this, the Parents and the Senior Citizens Act. Implementation of a continuing mandamus. I'll explain what is a continuing mandamus. Implementation of a continuing mandamus to monitor progress in enforcing elderly rights and re-evaluation and potential overhaul of existing pension schemes to align with economic capacities. So, what is a continuing mandamus? It's a judicial remedy where a court issues a series of ongoing periodic orders. So, court is actually interested in a long-term supervisory role. So, it retains its jurisdiction over the case. It monitors progress on a periodic basis and issues further orders from time to time as needed until the initial directive is fully accomplished. So let's go back to the seventh schedule and federal powers. So as all of you must be knowing that there are three kind of lists what we have in our constitution. One is the union list and the state list, and the third one is concurrent list where both have a role to play. And this framework establishes a clear division of powers with Parliament holding supremacy on the union list, and in case of conflict with state laws on concurrent subjects. So states usually they deal about the old age homes, pension, and labor welfare is a matter of concurrent list as well as social security. Now there are certain typical case scenarios like old age pensions, which can be addressed both ways, like under specific subjects, welfare of labor within the concurrent list, when both union and state governments have a role to play, and also as a relief for the disabled and unemployable under the state list. Now, recently, the government has come up with this concept of rights of senior citizens, not a question of welfare anymore. So it's of course welfare will be there, but at the same time, it is very much the rights of the elderly which needs to be emphasized. So social security and protection, freedom from age-based discrimination, dignity in treatment and care, which is very important and often neglected, protection from neglect and abuse. From the LASI, we came to know that 5 to 6% they have already reported abuse, and in most of the cases, almost 40%, the culprit is the son. In 28%, it's the daughter-in-law. And all of you will agree with me, this 5 to 6% elder abuse is gross underreporting. Now, participation in life, that is also a very important right of the elderly, and they are often neglected when it comes to decision making. So they are left out of the decision making process in general. So involvement in decision making is their right, and adequate standard of living. So all these are, you can see from this poster, this is from a government agency, Ministry of Social Justice. So overall, the constitutional provisions are quite strong, but the problem is with the enforcement. Now let us look at the legislative provisions. So this is the act which I was referring to, Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act. So maintenance is now mandatory, no question about it. Otherwise, it's a punishable offense. And if you abandon your elderly parents, you are liable to be penalized for that. In case of violation of provisions of the Act, the person who is guilty of such violation is punishable with an imprisonment up to 3 months or fine up to 5,000 or both. Now, it's not only the children, even because there are couples who do not have children. In that case, the next to kin or the relatives who are going to inherit their property, or even if when there is no property, so the next to kin, it is their responsibility. So children or the specified relatives, as the case may be, are to fulfill the basic needs of the aged parents, provide them care during their old age, and enable them to lead a normal life without deprivation or neglect of basic needs. So it, in fact, extends to stepdads or stepmothers, childless stepmothers or childless stepdads as well. Apart from providing the duties of the children or specified relatives, the Act also provides for the roles and responsibilities of the government. So they ask the government to set up old age homes, make provisions for medical care of the senior citizens and protection of their life and property. And the Act also makes the rights provided under the Act justiciable through tribunals established under the Act. So if someone has some issues, they can go to the tribunal. So there are definitions. What does a property means, or what does a relative means? So relative means any legal heir of the childless senior citizen who is not a minor, and is in possession of or would inherit his property after his death. And state government in relation to a union territory means the administrator. They are appointed under 239 article of the Constitution. So there were several other laws. Some of them are non-existent anymore. Why? Because now we have something else, which is called BNS or Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. Code of Criminal Procedure was in place until very recently, until 2023. And there you can see maintenance was enforceable by the court and it applied across religions. And the first class magistrate could issue order upon proof of neglect or refusal to provide maintenance. And this section also included provisions for interim maintenance and the recovery of arrears, ensuring a basic standard of living for those who cannot support themselves. Now there's Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956, which obligates on Hindu children. So you can look at it from a personal law perspective as well. So any Hindu is legally obligated to provide maintenance for their aged or infirm parents, and unfortunately, many of these parents do not know about this. This obligation continues as long as the parents cannot support themselves from their own earnings or property. The Act establishes this as a lifelong duty, ensuring that elderly and infirm parents they receive financial support from their children. The term parent also includes a childless stepmother under the Act. Now there was Indian Penal Code, which is replaced by BNS. You can see there are other relevant laws like Consumer Protection, Domestic Violence and Rights of Persons with Disabilities Acts. And so in summary, the legal framework which we have is, so you have constitutional provisions, you have several laws and schemes. The main problem is with implementation, which actually affects the outcome. And there you have a lot of scope for improvement. So now BNS has replaced the IPC. BNSS or Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita has replaced the Criminal Procedure Code, and the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam has replaced the Indian Evidence Act. These three new criminal laws came into effect on July 1, 2024, after President gave her consent and signed. So it now is an act. Let's just look at the welfare schemes which we have. There are several financial welfare schemes, some health welfare schemes, and some social welfare schemes. Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme is one such scheme. The main beauty of the scheme is it's a non-contributory scheme. The other pension schemes are contributories. So the elderly, they have to contribute in order to get a return. But here, Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme, you don't have to contribute anything. The scheme provides mainly to the BPL beneficiaries, not for everyone. So central contribution is 200 per month per beneficiary up to 79 years. And if someone is 80 years or more, in that case, central contribution goes up to 500. But on top of that, the state adds their contribution. So this 200 can go up to 1000 and the 500 can go up to even more. Now there is one Pradhan Mantri Baya Vandana Yojana, which is a pension scheme by the government of India for citizens 60 plus, offering a steady government guaranteed pension with assured returns for 10 years. And this is managed by LIC. This scheme includes benefits like loan facilities after 3 years and also premature exit options for critical illnesses. So here one has to contribute. This is a contributory pension scheme. And the Atal Pension Yojana, they provide a monthly government guaranteed pension from 1,000 to 5,000 to subscribers. So one has to subscribe again. So this is a contribution based system, a voluntary contribution based system, which is managed by Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. So once the subscriber dies, the spouse receives the same pension, and upon their deaths, the accumulated pension is goes back to the family or the nominee. Now there is one senior citizen savings scheme where you can deposit in multiples of 1,000, and anyone who has attained the age of 60 years can enter into the scheme, and someone who is not yet 60 but 55 plus but has retired under a voluntary retirement scheme or superannuated, they can also open this account. And for the armed forces, they can enter at the age of 50 plus. So, but not this is not applicable for the civil defense employees. So they can civil defense employees can enter at a regular age of 60, but they will not get the benefit of armed forces. A depositor may open an account individually or jointly with its spouse, and this account can be closed after expiry of 5 years from the date of opening an account. Or if they feel like, they can extend for a further period of 3 years. And in the old regime, this scheme was eligible for income tax deduction under 80C. Now, this is a very important scheme. National Program for the Healthcare of the Elderly. This is an articulation of the international and national commitments of the government as envisaged under the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, National Policy on Older Persons, adopted by the Government of India in 1999, and Section 20 of the Maintenance of the Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizen Act 2007, which deals with provisions for medical care of senior citizen. So the specific objectives are to provide an easy access and through community-based primary healthcare approach. If you just care to read the Niti Aayog document, which was published just last year, it's a wonderful document. And if you just go through that document, it will take some time because it's a quite a lengthy document, but you'll then come to know about what are the government plans about geriatrics in general to identify health problems in the elderly and provide appropriate health interventions in the community with a strong referral backup support and capacity building. That's very important, both by the medical as well as paramedical professionals and also the caregivers. And then to provide referral services to the elderly patients through district hospitals and regional medical institutions. So they have a plan to converge with National Rural Health Mission, Ayush, and other line departments like Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So this community-based healthcare approach, including domiciliary visits by trained healthcare workers, this is very important for this, and dedicated service at PHC or CHC level. So there will be machinery, equipments, training, additional human resources for the elderly, and dedicated facilities at district hospitals with 10 bedded geriatric wards, additional human resources, everything will be there. And strengthening of 8 regional medical institutes to provide dedicated tertiary level medical facilities for the elderly. So now you can just make some idea what the government is going to do in next 10 years. So they are planning to introduce a PG courses in geriatric medicine and in service training of health personnel at all levels. Just 20 years ago, or maybe a little longer, there were only 2 geriatric medicines, MD geriatric medicine seats all over India in Madras Medical College. And now there are almost 54 or 53 seats all over India. So it is increasing steadily. Information, education, and communication using mass media, folk media, and other communication channels to reach out to the target community. Because you need to make people aware, as I have already talked about, the only 12% of these elderly people, they are aware of this maintenance of the Senior Citizens and Parents and Senior Citizens Act of 2007. So the government has a huge task to do. Continuous monitoring and independent evaluation of the program and research in geriatrics and implementation of the program. Then comes the Rashtriya Vayashri Yojana. It's a central government scheme which provides free physical aids and assisted living devices to seniors, specifically BPL families. And which are the devices? You can see walking aids like walking sticks, elbow crutches, walkers, tripods, quad pods, and then hearing aids, spectacles, wheelchairs, and artificial dentures. The scheme is implemented by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment through the Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India, or ALIMCO, and they distribute devices at assessment and distribution camps. So now comes the elder line, which is the nationwide one number. And what is that number? 14567. So it's first national toll-free helpline for senior citizens, and which was launched on 1st October 2021. This provides information, guidance, emotional support, and field intervention for the country's elderly. Services include assistance with legal matters, pensions, health issues, caregiver support, and resolving grievances, which aims to foster dignity and well-being among senior citizens. So that's there. Again, this poster is designed by the Ministry of Empowerment and Social Justice. But despite all these laws and schemes, all of us know there are challenges and there are long gaps. First and foremost, there is awareness gap. As I've repeatedly told you, 12% are aware of the MWPSC Act. And about these pension schemes, most of the elderly people, they are unaware of the existence of these schemes. And financial insecurity, 78% of these elderly, they are actually uninsured, and government plans are often underfunded. So there will be rising out of pocket expenses. 61% of elders, they are actively involved in taking care of their grandchildren, and 65% of elders are financially insecure. And if they are financially insecure, you need more and more laws and other welfare schemes. But the main thrust will be in implementation of this scheme and establishing the fact it is their right. Only 31% have access to health insurance, because other Asian countries like Japan, like Singapore, like South Korea, they have gone ahead with this kind of long-term care insurance plan. But we don't have any such long-term care insurance plan in India. And there are other Asian countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand. They are also gradually progressing. So there is a huge gap. And I'm not talking about the Western countries only, I'm talking about Asian countries. Even China, they have the pilot projects with this long-term care insurance plan, and they are going to implement this kind of long-term insurance plans very shortly, but we still don't have it here. So These elderly people, only 3% of them have commercial health insurance. And as you know, only 5 to 6%. So if they are financially insecure, there will be more and more cases of elderly abuse. So these are interrelated. So you are going to make laws for elderly abuse, but if you don't do anything about your financial insecurity, if you can't do anything about their long-term care insurance, that elderly abuse will probably not stop in near future. And the abuse, we have data to suggest 75% of these abuse, events actually increase with decrease in income. And 42% of the abused, unfortunately, are faced by the family members, like sons are implicated in 42%, 28% from daughters-in-law. So that's a very unfortunate part of the story. It's an intentional or negligent act. So if you are negligent, you have not beaten up your parents, but you have neglected. That's enough. So elder abuse is an intentional or negligent act which can cause harm or a serious risk of harm to an older adult. And there are, which are the subtypes, 5 subtypes of elder abuse. I'm sure you had sessions on elder abuse separately. Now, these 5 subtypes are physical abuse, psychological abuse, financial exploitation, neglect and abandonment, and then sexual abuse. Yes, India has seen an alarming rise in the cases of elder abuse and abandonment. And the worst part of it is the rural population are affected even more. And if it is an elderly lady, that's the worst part of the story. They are the most vulnerable section of the society. So, India's growing aging crisis, we have data for that. And from this gloomy picture, let us discuss a few points how to go forward. So, one, these are the policy priorities, and Niti Aayog has already started working on that. So, the pensions has to be inflation linked, and there has to be long-term care pilots, as I've already discussed. That China has started doing that, and elder abuse protection has to be ensured by appropriate laws, and then digital social inclusion. And this digital training of the elderly, this also is included in the Niti Aayog's document. Then one has to go for senior friendly infrastructure, even it's not at urban spaces as well as rural spaces. So Niti Aayog has identified a silver economy. There is a lot of scope for uh, many private players are very much interested in for working in this space, because and they actually the main recommendation, that includes fostering digital inclusion, literacy for seniors, improving accessibility and affordability of senior care products, reforming tax structures, savings plans to support financial security, strengthening private public partnerships in elder care, and encouraging innovative solutions through programs like Senior Aging Growth Engine Initiative. So the government now has created portals where an elderly person can get enlisted and get a re-employment according to his or her level of ability. The goal is to harness the economic potential of older adults, ensuring they can lead productive lives and contribute to economic growth while receiving the necessary care and support. 86% of senior citizens are clueless about their rights. And let me just urge you, to all of you, and remind you that rights don't get old. So on June 15, every year, stand up for the human rights of older adults. That's the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And I urge all of you to pledge for the dignity of the seniors, please. And you will get this certificate from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Just log in and get yourself registered there and just sign the pledge. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul. It was a wonderful and very informative talk, very helpful talk. I think, so all the appreciations are flowing in. I think it's a way that you presented it. Not at all. It was not at all boring. Please don't say that. How can we ensure the legal capacity of an elderly patient with dementia, elderly person with dementia?
Okay. Uh, Legal capacity actually means the ability to understand, make, and communicate decisions about one's own life, property, rights. In dementia, this capacity may fluctuate. There may be good days, there may be bad days, or it may be even domain specific. So, someone can decide about daily spending, but not complex property matters. So, it will be unwise to jump to a conclusion that if someone just shows some features of early dementia like forgetfulness or some in vascular dementia patients, some problems with executive functioning, that does not necessarily mean that this dementia will refrain this person from taking any major decision related to his or her property or finance or like that. So one has to assess that capacity first. Internationally, there is a UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and India is also a part to that. India actually ratified that in 2007, and they actually emphasize supported decision making rather than substituted decision making. So, as I've already told you, this capacity, this assessment of capacity, it is very, very task specific. So, one may not have capacity to consent to treatment. That does not necessarily mean that he or she doesn't have capacity to sell his property. He may not understand the intricacies of treatment options. So he may tell you, okay, you talk to my son or daughter, but that person's brain works fine when it comes to a question of selling of shares. So it is task specific. And ideally, this assessment of capacity should be done by a geriatrician or psychiatrist or neuropsychologist or a combination of them. That's the best thing to do. And one has to use structured tools and document that. Structured tools like if you are treatment decisions, if you are making a decision about treatments, you can have a structured tool like which goes by the name MACCAT. Or if you're just when you're assessing for the cognition, whether he shows any signs of cognitive failure, you can screen with MMSE or MOCA, or if you think a little bit of elaborate assessment is necessary, you can go for Addenbrook. So those are validated even in Indian population. But that documentation is critical. It should be written, dated, signed, and preferably witnessed.
Just before we take the next question for Dr. Jayanta, there are a couple of more questions for you, Dr. Rahul. Is there one single portal for viewing all the schemes for the elderly?
Not yet, but I can assure you within this year, we are going to launch our website of the West Bengal branch, where you'll have all scheme at one place.
Has living will any legal validity in India?
Couldn't get the question.
Has living will any
Yes,
legal validity in India?
yes, yes, it has. It still has. And these advanced directive and all these are getting popular these days.
Yeah.
You
Doctor
just go and attend geriatric conferences. I'm sure you'll have at least one or two discussions on that.
Dr. Manoj Kurshinkal, who asked the question, was a member of parliament.
Okay.
So it is very relevant to us. For Dr. Rahul, there is a question for you again. Do we have community centers at cities or district headquarters for elderly single window help for their issues?
We still don't have.
Maybe state specific, but
Maybe it's there in some states. We don't have it here.
I think so, sir. At present, it is not in India.
yeah. So is TropI kit available like PropTech kit? Yes,
Yeah.
it is available. So that's all. I think the questions we have done. 20. It's 9:45. Prashanti's question is last. Elderly education schemes, their benefit should be in media. Okay, that's a statement. So I think we had a wonderful time. We heard both your talks.